Welcome back to Sporting Shadows, the podcast where we look and explore sports in the shadow of other mainstream sports that get more coverage. Today is a really special episode. I'm in a different location and I've got a special guest. It's Mr. Charles Morton. I know Charles, I've known him for a few years now, and he's just qualified as a level 2 coach in women's artistic gymnastics. And I brought him on board to talk about gymnastics and everything coaching, and more importantly, to find out about his journey. Welcome, Charles.
It's good to be here. Looking forward to this.
I hope we don't tire you out too much, because Charles has just come fresh from work, bless him. But it should be okay. How was work today? What have you been up to?
It was all right. I think Sunday classes at the club I work at. Can I name the club?
You can name the club, yeah, go ahead.
All right, fine. Basketball Gymnastics in Bath, the best gymnastics club in Bath of like 3. So fun one. No, they've been around for 30 years at the current building, 31 years now actually, and the founders have run a gymnastics club in Bath for the last 41 years. So it's been around a long time. And yeah, Sunday's a really easy day. There are no squad gymnasts, so the building's quite empty. I kind of get to do what I want in the building, so it's quite fun. Nice and easy one.
So how long have you been there for now, Charles? Because I've known you for quite a few years now, but you've actually been, this is about your second year into gymnastics?
So it's as of now, I've been there 2 years and I want to say 5 months. So yeah, started my placement year there in August, at the end of August 2022. And yeah, I've just had a really fun time coaching gymnastics. It's a really fun sport, something I didn't think I'd be into. But then once you start doing it, it's kind of just a lot of fun to do it, really, coaching and participating.
So walk me through that journey. I mean, you were studying here at Bath, sports coaching and management. Is that right?
Management and coaching.
Sports management and coaching. No, yeah, right. And so you needed a placement. So you looked, why gymnastics? Why did that draw you in? Because you don't have a background in gymnastics, right?
No, I don't.
Why did that happen?
I think part of it was the advertised salary. So that was really good. And the fact that it was in Bath, I was like looking to stay in Bath for my placement year. And also just, the Olympics come around, the Commonwealth Games, whatever it is, and I always enjoy watching gymnastics. Like, it's always one of the first sports I will watch. Like, obviously you see them doing everything, it's like, can't do that, but it always looks really cool. I always love watching it. And so I saw the placement, like, you know what, might be a fun way to get more involved in the sport. So I thought, yeah, apply and see where that goes.
Were you a bit sort of nervous, given the prospect that you didn't really know much about gymnastics?
Yes, and also no. I feel like, personally, I'm a pretty good all-round athlete. So I feel like I can pick up any sport pretty quickly and play or participate to a decent level. And even though I knew I was going into coach children mainly, so I didn't, again, I think I'm a pretty good athlete. So I think if I can pick up enough to then coach the children the level that they're at, then that's what I really need to do. And it's just gone from there, really.
So a big part of this podcast is talking about niche sports or sports that don't get massive mainstream coverage. And again, it's always interesting when you reflect gymnastics, because it's much bigger in some countries than it is others. And again, so you were obviously inspired by the Commonwealth and Olympics sort of coverage of gymnastics. Is that sort of the main place we see gymnastics covered, or are there countries that cover it a lot more regularly?
I think in the UK, it's not a major sport. Like, you get the big events, the Commonwealth Games, the Olympics, World Championships, but other countries like the US is probably the big one. But US collegiate sport is just a different level. But yeah, gymnastics in the US at the collegiate level is crazy. Like, you get even gymnasts from the UK, gymnasts from all over really, will go and compete in the collegiate system, because it's just the most intense gymnastics system you'll get anywhere in the world until you hit the elite level, until you hit proper international competitions. It's just crazy there.
So do you think it's difficult capturing sort of people and inspiring people to get into gymnastics, especially in the UK, if the only time it's really made popular as during something like the Commonwealth or the Olympic Games.
Oh, it definitely is. And you've seen it over the last few years. Gymnasts like Max Whitlock has done a lot in terms of his stature. Niall Wilson, he's got like a pretty good social media following now, following his retirement from like, competitive gymnastics. Him and his two friends, Luke Stoney and was it Ash Watson, I want to say. And three of them do lots of gymnastics challenges. They're all over social media. So they're really putting in like a lot of work to improve the visibility of gymnastics. And I think that those three in particular do something like they're quite big, but it's like they do the whole like overall gymnastics. I think another one is Ian Gunther, who's an American gymnast and he's a collegiate athlete. But he's been talked about a lot because of what he does for the men's side, because we think gymnastics and yeah, there's men's artistic, there's women's artistic. There are way more disciplines than just that. But when you say gymnastics, most people tend to think about the Simone Bileses, the Gadarova twins. And you'd think of women's artistic generally more than you would men's. So guys like Ian Gunther as well, showing just how varied the sport is.
And you chose to go into coaching for women's artistic in terms of your qualifications and your interest. Why did you go that route?
So the biggest reason really was just what the club needed at the time. So when you go for a qualification, yes, it's like lots of coaches will go for what they knew. So lots of coaches will do a qualification after being gymnasts themselves. So generally speaking, if you're a female gymnast, you'll go into women's artistic because you already know the skills. You've been taught those skills, you've worked through them. If you're a male gymnast, you'll go for men's artistic. But for me, coming into it fresh, it was really kind of a choice between men's, women's, and general gymnastics. But I didn't really need a men's qualification because I didn't really coach the boys' squads at the club. So it was really between women's artistic and general. And the general consensus is that women's artistic qualifies you to a higher standard, to a higher level than a general qualification does at the same level. So I went down the women's artistic route.
So let's talk about that at basketball now. Let's talk a little bit about your journey, because over the last two years and 5 months, if you want to say, you've jumped in. What sort of age ranges are you coaching?
I coach everywhere from reception age children, so 4 years old, all the way to grown adults. So I coach an adult gym session on a Friday. And I think it's really, really interesting seeing the changes in both the lesson planning and like the hands-on coaching when it comes to not only different ages, but also the different levels of ability in those sessions. Like I've got 4-year-olds who I think, wow, you're fantastic. And also 4-year-olds who, bless them, run around not knowing what they're doing. And it's the same thing with adults as well. You get adults who come in because they want to just get a bit fitter, a bit healthier, and they have no real general coordination, let's say. Like some of them struggle to forward roll, some of them struggle a bit on the trampoline, for example, because we've got a really balanced, it's not a garden trampoline, it's a proper trampoline. But then you've also got adults who've been doing gymnastics for years themselves. They come from a gymnastic background and they're quite good. So I think it's always interesting to see just how varied it is.
And what would you say is the most rewarding part about your job as a coach? And maybe you can divide this over coaching younger people and maybe the adults as well.
I think my favourite part is I'm a very hands-on coach. I like to do the physical supporting. So my favourite part is seeing how much a gymnast trusts me to support them, because like there are risks involved with any sport, but gymnastics is one that like, you do something wrong and you land on your head. That's an issue. You could break a leg, you could break an arm. So I always enjoy coaching high-level gymnasts, like the squad gymnasts, because they're putting their trust in me to say, okay, can you help me with this skill? I'm really scared of it. If something goes wrong, I could hurt myself, but I trust you to make sure that something doesn't go wrong. I trust you to make sure I'm safe. And I really enjoy that bit. And I also think that, at a younger age, at a recreational level, I think that the gymnasts are there to have fun. And I always like to be the coach who keeps them coming back. So like I like to be really silly with my youngest classes because, I want them to develop. I want them to get good at the sport, but I also want them to think that the sport is something that they want to keep coming back to, that I'm a person they want to keep working with.
How do you balance that skills development and the sort of prevention of injury. What's the sort of approach that you take to that, and maybe others might take differently?
I think it kind of depends again on the age and ability level. So with a recreational class, it's like the lesson plans are kind of set by the upper management. You can see what the skills are, but all right, you've got to sort of work around who's on your coaching team as well. Because as we run it, we've got, for an hour class, let's say, they spend 30 minutes doing a warm-up and stretch where it's basically just me. I'm in charge of 20, 25 gymnasts, let's say. And they've got a 15-minute warm-up, 5 minutes for a stretch, and then 10 minutes for something called line work, which we normally do, where they just walk, or they're in groups, and they'll work down the length of the sprung floor, working on just different basic skills like forward rolls, cartwheels, handstands. And then after that, for the last half an hour, they're on different apparatus places. So 10 minutes across 3 different skills, whether it be vault, handstands, cartwheels, bar. And you've got to make sure that as the lead coach, you're in the right place to support the gymnast, but also that the coaches who are working with you are able to support on their places. So I think it's making sure that those coaches are happy doing what they're doing. And once they're happy, I can kind of not necessarily do what I want on my place, but I can upskill my place to make sure that my gymnasts are being challenged efficiently. So if I'm on a trampoline circuit and they're meant to be doing, I don't know, a fly spring, okay, do I know these gymnasts? Can they fly spring? Yes. Okay, what's the next step? Build up towards fly spring front somersault, for example, trying to build a connection and trying to work through different skills to make it sure that they're being challenged and that they can progress further on.
So how do you identify and nurture talent in gymnasts? Like, you obviously see a lot of different gymnasts. I mean, you'll be training so many people, won't you, and coaching so many people. Are there some that really shine out, and how do you actually nurture that sort of skills development?
So, yeah, we see a lot of gymnasts. I think the club has, I want to say, around 2,000 gymnasts. I think that's a number that's come up somewhere before. I'm not sure exactly in which meeting. But yeah, it's in the thousands of gymnasts. And as a lead coach, I think I'm in a better position to assess my own gymnasts, if that makes sense. Like, there are assistant coaches who will see even more than I do. But because I'm focused on my own classes, I know those gymnasts a bit better. But so the club has its different pathways. So a gymnast coming in fresh from, I don't know, just from nowhere really, will start in a recreational class, in a general school-age class. And that will have its lead coach and its assistant coaches. From there, we've got something called Fast Track, which is invite only. And it's essentially school-age plus. So it's 15 minutes longer than a normal school-age class. They get round to work on another kit place, where there's a bit more emphasis on the stretch and the style of gymnastics, trying to build their strength and their coordination a bit more. And if they do well in Fast Track, they can either go to, if they're a female gymnast, they can go to intermediate, which is like the next step up. Then there's the advanced pathway, and then there's the more elite squad pathway for the girls. And it's similar on the boys. It's not quite as high level on the boys' side, just because the club has lost some of its more elite squad, boys squad coaches, but even before I got there. So it was the boys program just hasn't been as well developed as the girls' side has. But it's still very similar in terms of, in each class, every so often we'll put out like a wish list of gymnasts who we think are capable enough to move up to the next level. And that will be discussed by the coaching team, so that all the gymnasts we see are being fairly judged by everyone, so that if they move up to a class, it's because enough people think that they're ready for it, rather than me saying, I really like this gymnast and I want her to move up, even if she's not quite ready, or if there is someone who is a bit more ready than her at that time.
And where are you in your own gymnast journey, Charles, in terms of your own skills development?
I'd like to think I'm okay. I I'm definitely not the most technical gymnast. I'm not the most technical coach either, but I'm in a position where I'm not really concerned about getting hurt doing stuff. So I'm happy to just chuck it. I'll be honest. That's the long and the short of it. If there's a skill and I'm like, am I gonna land on my feet and it's like 50-50, go for it. Because I played football mainly, and I've been injured a lot playing football. It's like I know what the pain feels like, so I'm not worried about getting hurt again. It's just I wanna just do stuff. I wanna get better at stuff. So it's really fun, I think, just going for things. And yeah, sometimes it doesn't work out. Again, I've had my fair share of head landings, of neck landings. I've injured myself a little bit in the gym, but overall, it's more fun than anything. Like if I fall over, not only is that a learning point for me, but it's also something I can then say to a gymnast, like, I've fallen over plenty of times. I've hurt myself in this gym. I'm still here. I can come back and do it. So if you're scared of a skill and I'm supporting you, even if you get hurt, that's fine. Yeah, you just come back, you'll go for it again.
And we've seen everything you've been up to on your Instagram. And a lot of the fails compilations we've seen as well of things you've been trying. Is that the sort of mindset you'd give it to a gymnast, or probably not necessarily, sort of keep trying until it sticks?
I get it. It's really dependent on who you're coaching. Like some gymnasts are more than happy to see the funny side of it, because like it's usually the little small fails. Like if they're on a beam and their foot slips, as long as they don't hurt themselves, then it's like most of them are happy, like, oh, I fell off, it's quite funny. If they're going for, I don't know, a double back somersault and they've under-rotated it, that's quite a scary thing to come down from that height, the height that you need for a double back, and land on your hands and feet, because it's quite a height, it's quite a shock. But yeah, there are always moments where the shock of it is the main thing. But once it wears off, if you see, let's say you see a video of someone go flying, like there are quite funny videos out there, and some of them look really bad, but like the gymnasts themselves have been fine, and they've laughed it off. Everyone else around them has laughed it off. But again, yeah, it's kind of just, what were they doing at the time? Are they okay with that fail? And do they know what they did wrong is another thing. Do they know what they did wrong? Do they know what they need to do next time to make sure it doesn't happen again? So,
is that a big part of it, teaching an aspect of humility? Sort of, you may do something wrong, or you may hurt yourself. You may feel to use that and carry on, rather than get upset by it and have this sort of mindset of, oh, I don't think I'll try that again. It's not for me. Is that quite a big thing? What happens when you can't quite teach that? When someone's really inwards and they sort of think, oh, that's it, I don't want to try that again.
That's really one of the biggest reasons why gymnasts drop out is the mental blocks. And this really applies to those high level gymnasts who are expected to be progressing at a much higher rate, and they're doing competitions and they're doing whatever else. And it's when they can't quite get over a mental block that they kind of just sit there and they don't do anything in the gym. And then coaches start to get a bit harder on them, because they've come into the gym, they're taking up their time, but they're not doing anything. And it just kind of causes a bit of a spiral. So I think my approach, because I work with squad gymnasts, I work with squad coaches, and their approaches are a bit more strict because they know what's at stake. Whereas when I step in, I'm usually there to cover someone. I'm just a bit more relaxed because it's not necessarily my group that I need to worry about. So I think I can just relax a bit more, work with the gymnasts on their own skills, their own development, rather than being really competition focused and trying to get the best out of them all the time, as much as just trying to make sure that they're having a good time in the gym.
From that, I suppose welfare is a really big issue. But I suppose how that might be quite tricky to implement then when you get to the higher levels. Is that what you're saying? What does that look like with the prospect of gymnasts trying to, or potentially looking to drop out or not want to carry on a certain way? What sort of level does that get?
Like, even now, even the last like month or so, there have been one or two of the more senior squad gymnasts have kind of just stopped the sport because they're just not enjoying their time in the gym. And to be fair, as children, like they're doing other sports outside. Like lots of them play netball, they do track and field athletics, they do football. So it's not as though it's just they can't do gymnastics anymore. Like they're not enjoying it. They're not enjoying it as much as another sport, which I think is all right in the grand scheme of things. Whereas if it was like gymnastics was their whole life and they then stop that, like what are they doing outside of that, and what kind of impact does that have on them as a person? Because I think I did my dissertation on this. Part of my dissertation covered why gymnasts drop out and what coaches can do with these sorts of things. And a British gymnastics study, I can't remember who, in partnership with who, but part of the study found that like the biggest reason that gymnasts drop out was because they did another sport. They wanted to pursue another sport, and that's fine. But the second biggest reason was because they didn't like their coaches, or they felt that their coaches were being too hard, or they just weren't positive enough, all that sort of thing. And I think that's a bit of an issue. Like if a gymnast is doing something else, fine, because they're still being active. But if they're no longer being active because of something in the gym environment, that's where you've got problems coming in.
And I suppose you see lots of things in the news where coaches might have problems with specific athletes or gymnasts that they're training with. I don't know, we look at athlete A with Simone Biles, a major story of the kind of relationships, the intimate relationships support staff can have with gymnasts. Is that something we see wider? Is that a bigger issue than we think?
Oh, it definitely is. And then part of that comes from just the power imbalances. It's like I quite enjoy working with children because that power imbalance is something I can manage. Like if I'm up here and a gymnast is down here, like I can bring myself down to that level and I can make myself fun, I can make myself engaging. And I then don't really need to work to not necessarily control them, but okay, they then understand that I'm being really fun and silly for them. If I get serious, it means that there's something going on. I need them to focus, or I need them to behave for whatever reason. And I think that my gymnasts in particular, compared to some of the other coaches I see, and I don't want to like put any shame on any coaches, but I think my gymnasts are really good at, or I'm really good at making sure that my gymnasts know that yes, it's fun. If I'm serious, that's it, it's serious. But I think the issue is that some coaches, especially at elite levels, and that's all these sorts of stories that you see, some coaches, they take that a bit too far. And even if they don't necessarily mean to at the time, it does then, again, spiral into something much, much worse that can then have really bad consequences.
Do you ever get any gymnasts sort of question you on your coaching, given that you don't have a background in gymnastics? How does that reflect in your kind of coaching and your teaching?
Every once in a while. But again, I coach mainly recreational gymnasts, so I chuck a backflip and like, whoa, that was cool. And like I can do just about all the skills they're doing.
Yeah.
There are a few that I can't. Like, for example, some of them like do a backbend into a bridge. Like I can backbend. It's not pretty, but I can do it. But it's more, even like when I coach the squad gymnasts, like I can do a lot of the skills that they're doing. It's not quite as pretty as was when they're doing it, which is fair enough.
But will it get prettier?
Yeah. Some of it is a bit beyond me, I'll be honest. But like some of them, they understand that like I've come in relatively quickly, built myself up quite quickly, and the coaching itself isn't really, you don't need to be able to do it to coach it, if that makes sense. And I think they all understand that. And I think it helps that when I coach, especially like the high level gymnasts where it's like, okay, I'm not at their level. If I'm coaching them, it's because I've all got a more qualified squad coach next to me. So I'm doing the supporting, which I'm more than happy to do. Like I'm more than happy to be the muscle to lift the child or hold them in a shape and let someone else correct the technique of what they're doing, which has worked quite well for me, because I think is one of the reasons why I've progressed so quickly in my coaching. Is because I just spend time with these other coaches and just listen to how they coach and what they're doing, which is really, really beneficial.
I was going to ask about how you keep motivated as a coach? Is it that aspect of doing all the skills yourself and sort of keeping your engagement with other coaches to keep you at that level of, this is what I'm doing, this is what I want to be doing, I want to be at your level, I want to be doing what you want to be doing?
I think a little bit of that. But again, it's just, I enjoy working with the gymnasts, and as long as there are gymnasts who I enjoy working with, I'm going to want to keep coaching. And this goes from the recreational level, like from the little 4-year-olds, cute as they are, all the way to like the squad gymnasts. Because yeah, the little 4-year-olds are really cute and they're really funny, and it's a really fun time to be with. But you also get the older squad gymnasts, and you can just talk to them, and you can I forgot, but you can have a bit of banter with them.
Yeah.
And it's very different, but it's also it's just as welcoming, if that makes sense. And it's just really, really nice having that mix in the gym.
What does that switch look like then? So say if you're coaching 4-year-olds and then you're coaching adult gym, do you change anything with your approach, or do you just walk into it?
I think it's definitely a little bit of a change. Like when I walk into my reception class, like they know me as Charles. Like I'm the funny coach, and just about every gymnast who I've coached, like I've said, like I'm so funny, I'm the funniest or whatever, something similar. And that's because, during the warm up, I'll drop onto my bottom rather than sitting down slowly, or I think my favorite one is like a little poke on the forehead, and it's really innocent, but they just see the finger coming. It's like, wow. And it's really funny, but like, they all enjoy it. And
like the claw from Toy Story.
yeah, it's like something very similar to that. But then when you get to adults, it's, again, you can have those conversations. You just talk to an adult about like their weekend, like what they did. And again, they're all there to learn the skills. And so it's just talking. So again, if I fall over in front of a 4-year-old, it's funny because I fell over. If I fall over in front of an adult, it's like, wow, that was shocking. Why did I fall over? And they want to know, like, are you okay? What did you do? Do you know what you like? Again, not only that they know what went wrong, but it's interesting to talk about like the process behind it, if that makes sense.
And the adults being what age now?
So adult gym, technically 18 plus, but you've got a few sort of the younger coaching stuff, like 16, 17 who are invited to adult gym because they don't do a regular class themselves. But yeah, we've got adult gymmers from 16, 17 all the way to, I think the oldest I coach on a Friday is 60 something, I want to say. And yeah, it's just great to see them doing gym and like just being active. It's a lot of fun.
And so you coach teenagers as well, right?
Yeah.
In between. So you've got your 4-year-olds and an adult over 18. What's that dynamic like with the teenagers, like 12, 13-year-olds?
It's definitely interesting. I think my favourite thing is the fact that they just yap so much. They're just so talkative. And again, I'm more than happy to encourage that because like you can build off of that, you can bounce off of that, and it's just really fun in the gym because like they want to learn stuff as well. But again, you got to make sure that you're on top of them because there come times where you've got to be serious because yeah, maybe they're not the most high level gymnasts, but when they get older, some of the skills they're doing are still quite difficult and technical. So you've still got to make sure that they know what they need to be doing at what times. So they also need to understand that, yeah, it's all fun, it's all talk, but serious time is serious.
And in terms of the development now, talk about these different age groups. I know you said mostly recreation, right? Is the sort of competitive side of gymnastics something you'd like to move into in future, or are you sort of happy with rec?
I think I do enjoy coaching the squad gymnasts and seeing their competition preps, for example. But as of right now, I don't know if I'm the right person to be like a squad coach during competition prep. Like I'm just, again, because I'm just not the most technical coach. So if they do a tumbler pass, for example, if they do a bar routine, I'm not the person to spot exactly what they did wrong. And because I'm not a judge, like most of the other squad coaches have got judging qualifications of their own, they can see it from the point of view of, they can see it from the coaching perspective, but they also know what to look for from a judging perspective. So they know what the gymnast then needs to work on specifically to get better marks in that routine. And I'm just not there yet, but maybe someday in the future, it'd be something to look at.
So we'll bring it back to you again, because we've sort of almost come a bit full circle on that, in the fact that you've recently got your level 2 coaching qualification. Why don't you talk us through a little bit about how that process has been? Again, you got your level 1 a fair while ago, so maybe you might want to talk a little bit about. Tell me how it came about.
So the level 1 was always on the table when I applied for the placement role. It was like, okay, if you enjoy it enough, then we'll get you qualified, just so you have it. So a bit of a continued professional development. And so I did that. I signed on to that, or I booked onto it in April of 2023. The course started in June, and then I was qualified mid-September 2023. And then I finished my placement year, stayed on through my final year of uni, doing my dissertation and everything, doing, in fairness, quite a lot of hours alongside my uni work. So don't know how I managed to balance all of that, I'll be honest. But then the point came where towards the end of the academic year, March, April 2024, there was an opportunity for a level 2 course, which is only in Bristol, which was, I think, the closest one there'd been for several months. And so the club were like, we'd like as many coaches as possible to go and do that level 2. So it ended up being 5 of us booking on. And at the time I was like, yeah, that's quite fun. But it came at a really weird time, because I didn't know if I was staying in Bath to coach beyond the end of the academic year, because I didn't know if I'd be able to find somewhere to live and all the rest of it. But then I did, and then the course started. It was a bit of fun, because my level 1 was all online. So it was online logbook. For my assessment, it was filmed in my own gym and then just sent off to be assessed. Whereas the level 2 was in person. So traveling to Bristol, taking gymnasts with us on the days and learning from the course tutor. And so it was just really fun, not only like doing all that in person, but also just being in a new environment. And I think that the biggest thing I took from that gym, or like just being in a new gym environment, was just how different some gyms look compared to what we were used to. And I think just the most fun part of it was using their sprung floor, because basketball sprung floor is not bad, but it's sprung via foam cubes rather than proper springs. And so using a proper spring floor for the first time was just so much fun. Like, I ran around almost as much as some of the gymnasts did during those days. It was just a lot of fun.
You become a 4-year-old running about.
I'm always 4 years old. I'm a 4-year-old in a grown man's body. But yeah, so we did all the in-person days just towards the end of the summer, and then it came time to do all the written stuff, the logbook and all the lesson planning. And I'll be honest, all 5 of us left it really, really, really late.
Oh no!
We were so bad with time management. It got to the point where we were meant to submit the logbook 2 weeks before our final in-person assessment. And as of the week before the submission point, most of us hadn't completed half of it. There was one of us, and again, I'm not going to name names, but I might show this interview to her at some point, and she'll know. Like,
she's been identified as she already.
Yeah, she as of a week before the submission point, she'd not touched the logbook.
Oh no!
Like, basically at all, and it was really funny because, like, we're all grown adults and we're all working, we're all doing the rest of it, and we're all having a fun time in the gym, but just somehow between all of us, we'd all basically just ignored this whole level 2 thing, and it was just a massive struggle at the end. But it was always a lot of fun doing it, because again, it was 5 of us at the same time, which sometimes it would be you, maybe one other coach from your club, but not often you get like that many coaches doing the same course. So I think it was just really, really fun to see how everyone was dealing with it. And yeah, my assessment was a week ago now, actually, literally a week ago. And
yeah, week Sunday, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Week today.
And again, it was in Bristol at the same club, but we did all the in-person teaching days. And I had to get a lift really early because I didn't have a lift to Bristol. So I went with another coach who had her assessment a few hours before mine, and I was just sat watching all the other coaches do their assessments, and it was just really, really interesting to see how they were doing it. I remember one coaching point, and this is aimed towards another coach who was doing it, who I think was probably the best technical coach of all 10 coaches doing that course, probably the best technical knowledge of anyone there. But she spent so long explaining her circuit. So like of a 15-minute circuit, she spent 10 minutes explaining it. And she was told off quite thoroughly for spending so long explaining the circuit instead of letting the gymnast go around. And just as she was getting talked to for that, we were just in the window being a little bit of a distraction, just peering over. And it was just quite fun. But yeah, it came my turn. And I'll be honest, I had quite an easy assessment. I got the skills I wanted. I had gymnasts who could do the skills really easily. And so I passed my assessment pretty easily, I'll be honest. Like nothing really to say about like my coaching or what they thought I could have done better. It was just my logbook was a bit too in detail, just a lot of waffle, let's say. But my coaching was fine. I think my supporting is my strong point. So I wasn't worried in the least, like no matter what assessment box I was given, I'd be able to support the skills. It was just, would I be able to give enough technical feedback about the specific things that I was looking for? And again, because I got a box with skills that I coach a lot, I enjoy coaching a lot, that was quite an easy one for me.
And so maybe, is it level 3 time at some point in the future, Charles?
Good heavens.
Was it too early to say?
The thing is, the level 3 is a bit different. So a level 1 and level 2 it's one course. You do one day and you get your level 1. Well, no, you do one course, you get your level 1. You do one course, you get your level 2. The level 3 and above, no, it's just the level 3. The level 3 is a bit different, in terms of it's broken down into modules. So if you want to do a level 3, you've got to do a level 3 coaching theory, which is several days, and that's just theory. And then you've also got to get different technical modules. So one module is focused on vault and beam. One will be focused on forwards tumbling on floor and close bar elements. One will be focused on backwards tumble and high bar elements, and one will be focused on vault. And it's just, not only would it take a long time to do all of them, but I've got to figure out where I would start, because I don't know what I'd enjoy coaching the most. I think as it stands, I'm a pretty good bar coach, I'd say, in terms of the sporting. And that's where if I'm covering, I'm usually put on bar, just because I'm the strongest of the squad coaches available at the time. So it's always interesting to see, just because I've thought about it. I don't know when, like maybe in the future, but not anytime soon, I don't think. But yeah, it's always just fun to look and see like, oh, I could do that one if it came up. You never know.
Always on the table. But what does the future hold for you, Charles? Will you be staying in Bath? Or what does that look like for coaches? Is it quite typical for coaches to travel around for work at gyms? What does that look like in the UK at least?
It's a bit of a weird one, because again, it's not quite as big as like, say the US, for example, where like again it's really, really big there. But lots of coaches will do they'll be gymnasts themselves. You can do a level 1 when you're 16. So lots of coaches, even if they don't progress too far, they'll get a level 1 fairly easily. And then some will go off to university, some will stay on at their club. And then from there, it's a big investment to go for a level 2 if you're not going to be a gymnastics coach in the future. So while the level 1 is quite easy and it's quite transferable in terms of like how to coach different skills, how to coach different groups of people, the level 2 is like, okay, you're a gymnastics coach now. So it's kind of, do you want to continue down this route? And I would like to. I think it's a fun sport. I enjoy coaching it. Just, you need to be sure that you want to coach gymnastics to go down that route, to get the level 2 and beyond.
Because you, of course, live east, right, in the east of England.
Yeah.
Which is quite a way away from here in Bath. But again, London, there's lots of clubs there, lots of opportunity. But I think you're pretty set on staying here, right? As far as you're concerned. But yeah, you seem like you're progressing well, and you've been developing things well. I'll say thanks for coming on and talking to me, giving some insight into the coaching side, a little bit, mostly on recreation as you spoke about. But again, your future, you could go a bit more in depth and choose a discipline to sort of follow through and coach. Maybe if you're level 3, see how we go. Maybe we follow up in future on that. But thanks very much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
So that's been it for this episode. Join us next time where we'll be, again, I think, examining a bit more into the world of gymnastics. Thank you very much.